book. That's the main thing.
That is the main thing. So, hello everyone. Here we are in. I am in Edinburgh, and David, Heathfield. Where are you?
I'm in Exeter.
All right.
That's southwest of England. Exeter, Devon, Old City, Roman City.
Cool. And this is a special duet for me because it's the first time I live stream it. And the second thing is that I invited you in because I heard you tell a story. And it reminded me so much of a story that I know from Denmark, but your story comes from a totally different place in the world. So please, David, if you can share the story with us.
Absolutely. And it's nice to meet you, Svend-Erik. This is the first time we've actually spoken to each other. Just contacted me a few days ago. So it's lovely to meet you storytelling friends. This is, I'm just going to show a photo. This is Hyun Gu Ham. And her name is also Casey, because when I was teaching Casey English a few months ago, and I always ask students that I teach English to tell me stories, and she told me this story from Korea. So it's a South Korean folktale. But I'm also aware that this is a story that has many variants in many different cultures. So this is Casey's Korean version of this story, and I'm going to retell what she told me. So are you ready to listen, Svend-Erik? Okay. Long ago, when the sea was so clean, the sea was so fresh you could drink it, there were two brothers. And the older brother, Han, was as cruel and as hard-hearted and as greedy as his younger brother, Su, was kind and giving. One day, poor younger brother, Su, was collecting firewood in the forest. And there he saw, lying across the path, an old man, an ancient man. And the old man seemed so weak. "Give me food. I will die if you do not give me food." Well, Su had no food with him. So he lifted up the old man and carried him to his humble home. He fed the old man the little that he had, and soon the old man was well and on his feet again. "I must leave. Before I go, for your kind-heartedness, I will give you this." And he produced from nowhere a big millstone. "This magic millstone will grind whatever you wish it to grind. Just say, 'Grind, millstone, grind,' and it will begin. But remember, when you have enough, say, 'Millstone, grind no more.'" Well, Su looked at the millstone, and when he looked up, the old man had vanished. He sat down on the floor next to the millstone, and he thought it would be good to have rice flour. And as he thought about rice flour, he said, do you want to say it with me, Svend-Erik? "Grind, millstone, grind." Can you say it? Grind, millstone, grind. And the millstone began to turn, and from the millstone poured rice flour. So much rice flour. Soon there was a pile, and then there was a heap. This is more than enough. And he remembered what the old man had said. He said, "Millstone, grind no more." Svend-Erik, millstone, grind no more. And the stone stopped turning. "This is more than I need." Su took much of that rice flour out of his small home and began sharing it with those in the community who were hungry and needy. His older brother, Han, saw Su's behavior. Where did he get all of that rice flour? He is too poor. Why is he sharing it? Han followed Su home, and Su went into the house. Han peeped through a crack in the door. "What is my younger brother doing?" Inside, he saw Sue. Sue knelt down beside the millstone. It would be good, he said aloud, to have some soya flour. Imagine. And he said, are you ready? Grind, millstone, grind. Grind, millstone, grind. And the great stone began to turn. And from the stone there flowed soya flour. His older brother Hans saw this, all the flour forming heaps. He did not wait to see how to stop the millstone. Sue now saw there was plenty, and he said the words, millstone, grind no more. Well, the millstone stopped turning. Sue took that soya flour out of his house to share it with those people he loved, the people who needed it. But while he was out of the house, Han came. He entered the house, and with all his strength, that selfish, greedy brother lifted the heavy millstone and carried it down to the shore. Remember, the sea was clear and fresh, and there was a boat. He put the heavy millstone in the bottom of the boat and rowed out from the shore. And when he was far enough away to make sure no one would see, he thought, what is it that I could grind? What is it that would make me rich? What is the most valuable commodity of all? And then he knew, salt. And you know why. He imagined salt, and he said the words, grind, millstone, grind. Grind, millstone, grind. And the stone turned in the bottom of the boat, and from the stone there poured salt. More and more salt. And Han rubbed his hands. I will be rich beyond my dreams. And soon the boat was filling with salt. I will be the most powerful man in the land. But the boat continued to fill almost to the brim, and the boat was low in the water. And Han said, stop. Enough salt now. No more. Stop. But the stone kept turning. And you know what happened. The boat sank down, 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 taking Han and the millstone to the bottom of the ocean. Sue lived well. He did not need the millstone to be happy. Han never appeared again. But they say in Korea, well, Casey, who told me the story, says that they say that this millstone is turning still, which is, of course, why the sea is salty. Thank you.
Thank you. Enjoyable. And this thing of nearly
I love playing with the camera.
You really did. Thank you so much. Wow. Yeah, I heard you tell that story online. It was on Facebook somewhere, and I was just immediately intrigued because.
Yeah, at the moment I'm recording a story every day during lockdown. I've got a YouTube playlist called A Breath of Fresh Air, Tales to Get Us Through, which is just me. It's for myself as well, getting outside every day in my garden or in the nearby countryside and just telling a short story that I love, often ones I learned from people like Casey. But yeah.
And I do this more or less for the same reason, I think. To survive. I mean, I've been sitting here. It's not outside, which I was just thinking about. Maybe I should do that. But I've been sitting here now for the past months, heard the most wonderful songs, most wonderful stories, the most wonderful things. I've shared it with people, and it's out there now on my channels from everything. So the duet means that I Well, I should have been inspired by it, but I knew what you were coming with. It was sort of I asked you to. So what I will do is tell you the version that I know of this. No, more or less the same story, but that's starts in Denmark, and it was Christmas Eve, where the poor brother, he was a little brother, he was sitting there with his wife in his little shed. It was like really a rundown house. They're always fighting to get it working for them, but it was always full of misfortune. And so they were so poor that they didn't even have salt. I mean, it was so bad. It was actually before the salt was coming into the ocean. I need to say that. But at one point, she looked at him with all the love that she had for him and said, "Can you go and ask your brother?" And he was like, "Never, never." I mean, it's unbearable. She was always tell me that I should get myself a job and I should just do like him and all these kinds of things. And he always tells me. But then he looked into the eyes of this loving woman, his love. So he said, I will go. He left his house just by the forest and went up the hill to this big, nearly like a mansion. And in the kitchen of this house, he went in Christmas Eve. In Denmark, it's not Christmas morning, it's Christmas Eve that we celebrate. And that means white potatoes, brown potatoes, pork, the pork flæskesteg, yeah, and a goose, and all kinds of delicious food was there. And of course, the brown potatoes. That means that you have butter, and then you have sugar, and then you more or less caramelized potatoes.
Oh, wow.
It was so lovely. But then the brother came in. "What are you doing here?" "Merry Christmas to you as well, my brother." "Well, yeah, Merry Christmas. But what are you doing here?" I was just wondering, could you spare any of all these food?" No way. I mean, look, this is just enough for us. We have some guests as well. Well, and then there was this, the ribs. You're going to have like a whole side of the ribs of the pork meat. He threw it at him. "Take it and go to hell." And then he turned around and went to his family. And the younger brother says, "Merry Christmas to you as well. Thank you." And then he turned around and he was thinking, "Go to hell? I don't know what that is." "Oh, yeah, of course, on Christmas Eve, I will go down into the graveyard." "Yeah, I will do that." So he walked with this little side of ribs into the graveyard. It was like, where is hell? But there was this strange creature, very strange. He was sort of in light, more or less. And he was standing there digging a hole. And when the younger brother came to him and asked him, "Excuse me, Merry Christmas, but do you know where hell is?" And then he just pointed this strange creature down into the hole. Down. And he took his side of ribs, jumped, fell into hell. And the devils, they love pork. Oh, they love it. They just went, "We're going to grab him. They came miles around. We have it. But she was just going like, "It's the only thing I have to my wife." And then the chairman of the devils stepped forward and said, "We will give you this coffee grinder if you bring us this, if you give us this side of ribs, we can have it." And he said, what do I need a coffee grinder for? I have nothing to go. I want to have a coffee, anything. No, but it's a very good coffee grinder. You tell it what it should grind, and then it will grind it for you. And then, of course, you need to know how to stop it as well. And then that's good. Thank you so much. And he went home, placed the coffee grinder on the table. She wasn't happy. She was like, why didn't you just bring the side of ribs? I mean, why do we need a coffee grinder? No, look, he said. And then he started. And after a few minutes, it was a delicious table with everything, potatoes, meat, and they were just so happy, sat there, and there was so much joy in the little family. And then she said, "It's a wonderful coffee grinder you have, my love. Shouldn't we invite our neighbors? It's Christmas. Second Christmas day is quite good to invite them for lunch and have a good time." And so they did. And of course, the older brother was told that these people was celebrating Christmas together with their neighbors. So he thought, the older brother, was that on my side of ribs? So what's going on here? He went down there and he saw all these things. There were beer, there were wine, there were food enough, there were fruit, there were bread, there were cheese. There was so wonderful. And then he went to his brother and said, "Have you stolen all of this?" No. It's this coffee grinder. It's fantastic. You can grind whatever you like. "I will have that coffee grinder." "Well, you can have a 30 Danish kroner." "All right then, but I will have it until the autumn," said the younger brother. So that was arranged. In the autumn, he should come and bring the coffee grinder. And so he did. But a whole year nearly had passed then. So of course they have managed to do all kinds of things with their house, and it was a total different younger brother who came in and delivered the coffee grinder to the older brother. It was just in the harvest time, and he had lots of fields, so there were lots of people out there, and they needed, of course, a lunch. And he said to his wife, I do it. Yes. I will go, and then I will tell you, the coffee grinder, what to do for us, and we will have lunch together." "Oh, what do I like? He put the coffee grinder on the table. "Oh, herring is good. I like that. And porridge. That is what we gotta get." And he started grinding. Herring, porridge. One pot, another pot, and a third pot, and then it started going on the floor, and he discovered there was one little detail that he forgot to ask how to stop it. So this herring and porridge was just all over the table and on the floor, and people came in, "What's going on here?" And of course they had a little of the herring and porridge, but it was impossible to be in the kitchen because it came up like this, and then it opened the windows and just fell out on just the yard there, and it started growing down there. And the younger brother looked up and he saw this flood of porridge and herring coming down towards him, and he understood there was something very, very wrong. So he walked up, crawled onto this herring and porridge, and asked the older brother, "Do you have a problem?" Yeah. "Can we make it stop?" "Yeah, if I make it stop, I will have the coffee grinder." Yeah. Take it away. So he took the coffee grinder, told it to stop, and then he left. Now you can just imagine how things have changed. The older brother, of course, did nothing that whole autumn and the most of the winter as well, that just take all these rotten, stinking herrings in the porridge and try to get rid of it. But the younger brother got really, he was so prosperous that he made himself a gold house on a hill. And out on the ocean, there was a salt seaman, a skipper, as we call it in Denmark. That's the captain of a salt ship, in skipper. And he looked at the house and he was so impressed. He was like, "Oh, that's beautiful, the most beautiful house I've ever seen. I need to go up and ask." And he went up there and asked, "How come you have a golden house, a coffee grinder?" can I have the coffee grinder? Yeah, 30 krona. So he got his 30 krona. He got the coffee grinder. He went on the ship and he sailed out and he said to his people, we are so tired of sailing to Norway to the salt mines and then bringing salt back to Denmark. We don't have to do it anymore. Just look at me. And then he asked the coffee grinder to make some salt. And it made salt and it made salt. And you can just imagine that this ship was so full of salt in the end that it's just exactly down to the bottom of the ocean. And there, I mean, they saved their lives. They had a little saving boat and then came up to the shore. But in that ocean, right there, there's a devil's coffee grinder, and it's still grinding salt. And that is why the ocean is full of salt.
I love the way you told that story, and I just love the way that there are these stories that are all around the world that are so closely linked and closely related. You know, isn't that wonderful?
Thank you.
Amazing. Yeah, thank you so much. Amazingly, I mean, that the story that I told, the first time I actually told that story was in your homeland. I was telling stories in the north of Jutland, in Aalborg and in Aalbeck and Skane, and in the Aalbeck Schola. I was there as a guest, and I told. I'd just been walking along the sea, along the coast for an hour, and then I came to the school, and I told the students, "Oh, I've just been walking. There's the two seas, aren't there? The Skagerrak and what's the other one?
Kattegat.
Kattegat. Which side is the Baltic?
Oh,
the east.
Yeah, I think it is. Yeah. That's Skagerrak. Yeah, I think it is.
Okay. So I'd just been walking, and I walked to the school, and I then told them that story, and so it's an interesting kind of coincidence there, isn't it, as well?
So now it's improvisation time. What do you feel?
Well, I suppose what I was interested in that story. You've got so many stories about the two siblings, haven't you?
Yeah.
Around the world, of the good one and the bad one, and obviously the bad ones, their greed, their overreaching desire is their downfall. So I suppose I was thinking about that. I mean, apparently it's a very ancient story form, that binary, because often in the Western stories we've got the three brothers and the third one is the good one. But in the even older form, it's these two, you know, the older one being the malevolent one and the younger one being the kind-hearted one. So I suppose I was thinking about other stories in that line. And you mentioned coffee as well a lot. So what I was thinking about a story from Palestine, because I'm doing a lot of storytelling with kids in Palestine at the moment through the internet. So I thought of a Palestinian story that I found as part of, that was incorporated into a short story that I read a couple of years ago. And in this short story, it was a daughter talking about a story that her mother always told. Can I tell you that story? Again, it's about two sisters rather than two brothers. Yeah?
Yeah.
And there is some coffee in it, although the coffee is a kind of detail rather than the main idea. But it's that idea again, the older sibling and the good younger sibling. So I'll begin. Canya McCann fickadim as a man, or as we say in English, once upon a time, there were two sisters, and the older sister was making stuffed cabbage leaves, rolling the leaves filled with rice and delicate spices, because she knew that the mayor was coming, and she wanted to give him some so that she would have higher status in the community. But her younger sister smelt those delicious stuffed cabbage leaves and came into her sister's kitchen and said, "Oh, my sister, those smell so good. Please, won't you give me just one of your stuffed cabbage leaves to taste?" "Get out," said the older sister. "You are not going to have any. Get out, the mayor will be here soon. He doesn't want to see your face here." So the younger sister went back to her home, and on the way she bought some cabbages, and she began to make stuffed, rolling cabbage leaves. And she worked hard, and, well, her cabbage leaves were good. And it was to her house that the mayor came. Now, while the mayor was on his way to her house, she was making these stuffed cabbage leaves and eating them. And she'd eaten too many because, they were so delicious. So when the mayor came in and said, "Could I try one?" she said, "Of course you can." And she leant across to give him one. But because, have you ever had that problem when you've eaten just too much cabbage? She leant over, and as she leant over, she let out the most enormous fart. Well, she said, "Oh, I'm so embarrassed. I wish I wasn't here. I wish the ground would swallow me up." And the younger sister found herself in the other world. She found herself in a strange place, but rather a wonderful place. She found herself walking along the street. And there were all sorts of friendly faces walking along and greeting each other and giving each other hugs. And there, at a cafe, drinking a small cup of coffee, she saw the fart that she had released. And the fart said, "Oh, come and join me. Thank you so much for giving me my freedom. Thank you so much for setting me free. I was ready to be released and you did it. What can I give you?" "Oh, I don't need anything," said the younger sister. "I will give you gold. Every time you open your mouth, gold will fall out. I must go home now." Well, when she found herself back in her kitchen, when she spoke to the mayor, gold coins fell out of her mouth. The mayor was amazed. Well, time passed, and the older sister found out about what her younger sister had done. And when she asked her younger sister, as she told the story, the younger sister talked and the gold coins were falling from her mouth. And the older sister thought, "I want some of that gold." So she invited the mayor to come to her house. And she made more of these delicious stuffed cabbage leaves. And when the mayor came in and said, "Well, I will try one of your cabbage leaves," she picked one up and eagerly she leant across, and when she was trying to squeeze one out, but she forced it, and in the end there was just a little miserable fart came out. And she said, "Oh, I'm so embarrassed. I wish the world would swallow me up. I wish I was somewhere else." And sure enough, she found herself in another world. But the older sister found herself in the underworld. And the underworld was a dark, dank, stinking place. The people walked fearfully, dressed in rags, not looking at each other. And there, limping towards her, ragged and ugly, was the miserable little fart that she had forced out. "Oh, you forced me out of the place where I was happy. You drove me out. I was not ready to be pushed from my home. You are wicked. Give me gold," said the older sister. "I will give you what you deserve," said the miserable fart. She found herself back in the kitchen. And when she tried to speak to the mayor, what are you imagining? She opened her mouth And what came out of her mouth was scorpions. Teeming scorpions. And the scorpions stung her from the top of her head to her toes. She was stung all over and she dropped down dead. So there's the story of the cabbage fart. Story that is told in Palestine. But isn't it the same story again, Svend-Erik? The same story again, but so many different versions.
Yeah, but it's like there's a Danish artist. It's called Asger Jorn, who wrote a whole very beautiful page. I can send it to you. It's about Gilgamesh and there's so many stories of this. And he says it's very much about spring and autumn, winter and summer. That's like the original story was this who's winning, who's winning, who's winning. I loved it. It was beautiful.
So, when you were listening to the story of the cabbage fart, Svend-Erik, was there something that what were you inspired to respond with?
Yeah, but there's something about this strange thing about the endings, because our culture is like we always want it to be nice and round, the endings, right? But this whoop, and you go like, oh, take care of my heart, please. I need to.
Yeah, there's no redemption for that.
No redemption, no way. It's just right there. Well, I was actually thinking about going back to Christmas. I don't know why, but it was like, I told you that it started in Christmas with salt. This Christmas was.
Maybe it's because the lockdown makes you feel really hygge,
Yeah. We go for hygge. It's true. Yeah. I mean, we have a game here. It's called hygge. I don't know where it is, but it's actually called hygge, and it's in English, and it's just questions about life. It's like questions about who were your favorite idol when you were 14, and then you talk about that. That's very hygge.
I'm going to take you and sit down comfortably on my sofa now.
All right, cool.
I'm going to relax on my sofa and listen to you tell the story.
It's in the country. It was in the countryside. It was these two farms not far from each other, and it was basically the same. Well, it was not. It was because these people were not brothers. But what happened was that it was this old man coming, and he was poor. He was a beggar, and it was Christmas Eve. So he knocked on the door of the first house that he came on, that was on his road. He walked into the little yard there and he knocked on the door, and the woman opened, and he stood there. It was Christmas Eve. Can you share any of your food? Is there anything we can do? No way. No way. What do you mean? There's no way. You get up and look at yourself. Never, lifetime. And she closed the door. So he has to go to the next one. They were not so rich as this first one. So what happened was, of course, that she said, yes. We don't have a lot, but you can have what we have. So they were talking, these two, the man and the woman. What are we going to give him? I don't know. What are we going to give him? We have to slaughter our only, what do you call it? A male sheep?
Ram.
A ram. Yeah, they had a ram, with two horns. That's very important, with horns. So they slaughtered the ram and gave this poor man something to eat, and he was very happy. And they gave him their bed, and they laid on the floor on a little mattress, and that was so kind of them. So in the morning, when he was on his way to say goodbye to them and say Merry Christmas and all that, he asked them, how many horns did that ram have? 2. I'll give you 2 wishes. Do we want anything? No. God's peace and just so we have enough, that's fine for us. Well, it's granted to you. And then he left and walked away. And that got peace, and that just enough so they could have something to eat, actually turned out to be very, very good for these two. Because when they had more sheep, and they did not just bring 2 lamb into the world, or 4 of them, and the chickens were just like a lot of them, and they were just, everything was growing in the garden, and everything was just suddenly changing for these two. And when the other woman saw that, she came and said, "What's going on here? Why is everything different for you now?" Well, it was at Christmas time. It was this old man. Yeah, he came to our house first. Yeah, but we invited him in and gave him something to eat. And then he asked us, "How many horns did the ram have?" 2. And then he said, "Then I grant you 2 wishes." And we just wanted God's peace and enough for us to have as we can go along with the day. Said the other woman, and went home and waited for Christmas. When Christmas came, he came back again. The old man, old beggar, just knocking on the door. And when she opened, he was just brought in and sat down. And you know that kind of dinner was really uncomfortable? Everybody is like talking too much and too loudy on the everything is too much, right? They have slaughtered a big cow, right? And it was massive amount of food, and it was just like constantly giving him something to eat, and he was just going, "Excuse me, I'm fine. I'm really fine. I'm really fine. Don't push me." And then when he was giving a bed, it was like, it's too soft, and the duvet was too big. It was like too much, just too much of everything. It wasn't cozy at all. But when he said that he wanted to go, she was like, no way. My husband would drive you to the station. Yes, go, oh, off you go. So he was put in they have a little gig, a little horse wagon they could drive on up to the station. And as the old man was on his way out, the man said, "Merry Christmas, but haven't you forgotten something?" "Oh, yeah, sure. How many horns did that cow have?" And he was instructed by his wife to say 4. So he said, 4. "Well, then I grant you with 4 wishes." We have 4. Merry Christmas, man. And he was on his way with the horses. He was so excited he couldn't wait. He wanted so much that they were going. But the road wasn't really good. So at one point, the horses went outside the road, and it came like, and the wheel went like this, and he just stopped like that. And he went out, and he was going like, "Oh, you stupid horses. Oh, you stupid horses. What should I do with you? I have a long way to go now. Oh, I wish that the devil had me." So the 2 horses were gone. And then he started walking. Then he started walking. And that takes quite a long time. And she was standing there. Oh, where is he? Oh my God, where is he? What has happened? I don't understand it. Why isn't he home? Oh, I would wish that he was here. Boing! He was standing right there in front of her. "What's going on? Why are you here?" "Well, I don't know. I think you did that." "What's going on? Why aren't you home with the horses?" "The horses, I think I made a mistake. I think I started." And you can just imagine, I can see it on your face. Not a lot of love going on. No, it was just going. And at one point, he was so angry with her that he just said, "Oh, I wish those 2 horns was on your head." Oh dear. Because here, too big, and it was beautiful horns, really, really beautiful, because that cow was kind of something, but she wasn't happy at all. This is cow horns went like this and this, and he said, "We still have a wish. We still have one. We still have one wish." And she was like, "No, no, no, just one." Okay then. And then she said, "I wish that the horn here in my forehead is gone." And they were gone. So, 4 wishes, all gone. I'm not sure they lived happily hereafter, but they lived till they died. But I know one thing is that that old man was sitting in the train or wherever he was just going, I think I did a good job here. And a good Christmas was. So
yeah, be careful what you wish for.
Yeah, you might get it.
That reminds me of isn't there the Nordic story with the woman with the sausage on her nose?
Yeah.
That's like that one.
It's exactly like that one.
Yeah.
The first time I saw that was when I read the Donald Duck, and it's Donald Duck who's lying there, and he has these 3 wishes, and the Uncle Scrooge, is that what you call him? The rich guy.
Scrooge. Yeah,
Scrooge. And at one point, Donald Duck wishes a hamburger, and Scrooge gets so, what have you done? So the hamburger lands on his beak, and then they sort of end up with the same thing. What a wonderful way to spend an evening together with you, David. It's been so much a joy. Thank you so much.
Can I finish by sharing a really, really short story? Because you've told the story where they really wished badly, but I think the story with the best wish, you probably know this story, Svend-Erik, but it's a story that I tell so often because I find it so beautiful. And I know that there are Irish versions and versions everywhere, but the story I usually tell is an Indian version. And you know Ganesh, the elephant-headed god of
Ganesh is the remover of obstacles. So I went to Kathmandu in Nepal to a children's storytelling festival, or children's literature festival. I was a guest, so I was asked to open this festival in Kathmandu by lighting a puja to Ganesh, lighting the flame to start the festival, because everything begins with Ganesh, but here we'll finish with Ganesh, the remover of obstacles. So there was, let me find my prop. Yes, this is a story to finish, if that's okay. There was an old woman who was blind. She had lost her sight, and they were poor, her family. She lived with her son and her son's wife. One night in her dreams, Lord Ganesh appeared to her. "Old woman, you are kind-hearted, and because of this, I grant you one wish. You can wish for anything." "Oh, Lord Ganesh, I need time to consider my wish." "Then I will return tomorrow night. Then you will make your wish," said Ganesh. Well, in the morning, the old woman went to her son, and she said, "What should I wish for?" And her son said, "It's easy, mother. We are poor. Wish to be rich." And then she went to her son's wife, and she said, "What should I wish for from Lord Ganesh?" And her son's wife said, Mother-in-law, we have no children, your son and I. Wish for a grandchild." Well, the old woman thought about this, and then she told her neighbor what Ganesh and her son and her son's wife had said. And her neighbor was not a foolish woman, and she said, "Your son and your son's wife are thinking too much about themselves. What about you? The wish is yours. You are blind, and you are not so old. wish to see again. Well, the old woman thought, what should I wish for? To be rich? For a grandchild? To see again? All day long she thought. And that night she went to her bed and she slept. And in the night, in her dreams, Ganesh came again. Old woman, now is time to make your wish. One wish. Well, Svend-Erik, you know what she wished for? You know this story? Yeah, you know what she wished for.
Yeah.
I am ready to make my wish. I wish to see my grandchild drinking milk from a golden cup. Ha! Lord Ganesh. Wise old woman, your wish is given. And a short time later, that old woman was holding her beautiful grandchild, looking at her grandchild drinking milk from a golden cup. This is how to wish. This is how to wish. Yes.
That's so much the opposite of the story. It's like
This is,
it's
the wise wish.
And also it's
The creative thinker.
It's beautiful that it's in a dream. It's so beautiful that she comes into this, and she knows that it's coming. She just prepares herself for the dream. It's like there's no difference between this world and the dream world. Of course not. Everything that's in the dream is here, and it's like a story. There's no difference between the world of a story and the reality that we live in.
Yeah, absolutely. Isn't it? Clarissa Pinkola SD said that when we are listening and engaged in a story, it's the same experience as being in a dream. We're just there in that world. Yeah.
Thank you, David.
Thank you, Svend-Erik. Thank you for
much.
inviting me. I've really enjoyed it. It's been a treat and something I haven't tried before. This kind of interface and the duet notion is lovely. Thank you.
Thank you. And everybody who's been listening or whatever they have been doing, thank you so much for being part of this wonderful conversation. Thank you, David. Thank you. Take care.